And joining me with reaction, radio talk show host, he's nationally syndicated, Dennis Prager, Fox News contributor Kirsten Powers. Guys, good to see you.
Hi, Sean.
Good to see you.
Let me start with, Kirsten, when I was pointing out the public opinion polls in Egypt at the time we were being lectured by everybody about how this was a big democracy movement, I'm saying, no, watch the Muslim Brotherhood. Watch the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah.
And now they've aligned with the Egyptian military. Now they are by far the favorite to come into power. And they were calling from the very beginning, prepare for war with Israel. And everybody ignored me. Even the president even mentioned it yesterday as if democracy was still going to happen. How much...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Look, this was actually one time where you and I were agreeing, because I think, my husband has a lot of family there, and we've spent time there, and, everything we were hearing was exactly what you just said, which was that, look, there are really no other parties that are as organized as the Muslim Brotherhood, and, they didn't give them enough time to really even organize by setting the elections in September, and so, yeah, there is a lot of radicalism. There's been a lot of attacks on Coptic Christians. They've been attacking churches. They've been killing people at the churches. The police that were disbanded have not come back, so it's just complete chaos. It's a very bad situation.
Dennis, this is somewhat troubling to me, and maybe it sounds like I'm putting myself down here. If it was so clear as day and so simple for me to see this, how is it that our president, our State Department, our national security people, how do they get something so obvious? The polls showed that 75% of Egyptians think that apostates should get the death penalty, and they didn't foresee this happening. How could they miss this?
Sean, I want to tell you, let me just say, none of us know what you'll ask, or anyone will ask when we come on a show like this. If I could have prayed for one question, it was the one you just asked me. The reason is left-wing naivete. Leftist and naive are synonymous. And so when Tom Friedman writes in the New York Times about the Arab Spring and how he was in Tahrir Square and he was so filled with hope, and people like you and me and even Kirsten, for that matter, whom I understand doesn't come from the right-wing side, nevertheless, people like us understand the Egyptian people don't buy the same Jeffersonian American values, Judeo-Christian values, any of the values that we have. The vast majority of Egyptians do not believe that there should be peace with Israel, believe that Sharia should play a prominent role in Egypt's life. But for the left, all they knew was our dictator is being removed, and that's a good thing.
It's sad. Look, not only did they not see the polls, for example, coverage, our own reporters talking about Anderson Cooper reporting on this great democracy while getting punched in the face and run out of the square. Lara Logan, who's a terrific reporter, viciously raped and nearly killed in that square at that time. All of this was
being called a Jew.
But, Sean, can I just say something, though? But at the same time, the overall population in Cairo is actually fairly moderate. Even the Muslims are fairly moderate. The problem is that because of the oppressive government... Yes, they are.
The polls show that they are not.
But I'm telling you, compared to, Saudi Arabia or the other places in the region, they are much more. And listen, they don't want to live under Sharia law. They do not want to live under the Muslim Brotherhood. The problem is the Muslim Brotherhood is too organized.
The Pew poll showed that most people want Islam as a part of their government.
That's different.
And
no, but that's different,
half the
Sean.
population, more than half, wants men and women separated in the workplace.
Yeah,
and apostates should get the death penalty.
But, Sean, I'm just telling you that's different. That Islam, yes, is the religion of the majority of the people, and they take it very seriously, and they think that the government should be based on that. That's very different than Sharia law. I am telling you, they do not want to live under Sharia law.
It's not different. Unfortunately, it's not different from Sharia law.
Yes,
of course, there are a handful of Muslims for whom that is true. But for the vast majority of Arab Muslims, and we're talking about Islam within the Middle East right now, Sharia is what a serious Muslim is about. Now, does that mean that they want women caned in public squares? Not necessarily. But, but it does mean that Sharia is dominant.
Dennis, I want to ask you this, and then I'll let Kirsten respond. If you look at the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, we have a weakened Jordan now. Syria, a mortal enemy of Israel. You've got, you know, Hamas in the Gaza Strip, and they're firing rockets, et cetera. Lebanon has been taken over by Hezbollah. They're funded by Iran with all these weapons, et cetera, et cetera. And the president talks about pre-67 borders. And I'm glad he got a lecture from Netanyahu today, the prime minister, because he needed one. Obviously, he needs an education.
Well, he did get a lecture, and I think that a lot of Americans understood it was delivered from the heart. There's a Hebrew saying, words that come from the heart enter the heart. I don't think anybody saw it as disrespectful of the President of the United States.
I bet he did.
But the truth is, you hit it in your opening question, which I emphasized. The left is naive. It is naive about evil. It was naive about evil under communism. It is naive about evil, whether it is in the figurehead of an Islamist. It is naive about these things. If only Israel will go to 67 borders, then Palestinians will recognize the right of a Jewish state to exist. That will not happen. The vast majority of Palestinians don't believe a Jewish state should exist.
I agree. Kirsten, last question. How angry is President Obama tonight? Because I bet he's fuming.
I don't know, but you know, Netanyahu actually was disrespectful to him, and I think it's a problem.
Not.
I don't know why you're enjoying him being disrespectful to the president.
By telling the truth?
And I also just want to speak to this idea that just people on the left are naive. There's a lot of naivete in the United States that actually could be referred to as ignorance about the Middle East. And you know, there were a lot of people who thought things were going to be very different in Iraq, for example, that are on the right. So to try to smear all people on the left is not understanding anything.
It's not a smear.
It's
not a smear. And it's
there were a lot of people on the right also who were criticizing Obama for the fact that he wasn't, you know, that he wasn't getting behind the so-called Arab Spring.
Tom Friedman is naive.
So I think, fine, if you want to say Tom Friedman is naive, but just, I mean, there are plenty of people on the left who are not naive, and there are plenty of people on the right who are naive.
He's the leading liberal commentator on foreign affairs in the United States.
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about the Middle East, and I think people on the right and on the left make a mistake. I think Netanyahu, he was very disrespectful to the president.
He was not disrespectful. He told him the truth. The president.
No, it is not for him to tell him, I expect you to do something. You know, he expects him to change his mind. It's like the president is right in this situation.
No, the president was wrong in this situation.
No,
and the president is naive. Why would you want the United States of America to sit down with people in their charter that are committed to our destruction?
All he did was he just said this would be a starting point, the 1967 lines. That's all he said. That is exactly what he said. And Netanyahu, because he has his right-wing constituency, blew it up, and you guys are all getting on board and making this into something that it's not.
All right, I got to run, but
he represents a country whose existence is threatened.
Coming up, he's free on bail, but